What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 51 of Beyond the Finish Line, a running podcast that dives deep into the stories that transcend far beyond the distance. I am your host, Joe Hardin. I am a passionate runner myself. Whether you're an elite, a back of the pack grinder, or somewhere in between, this is your space to learn, grow, and be inspired. Um, Thank you, everybody. For tuning in. You guys have been doing great. Like I said, keep liking, sharing, reposting, rating, review. You guys have been knocking it out of the park. Thank you so much. 61 5-star reviews. Awesome. Thank you so much. Episode 51. I just get more and more excited every time I reach like a new milestone. Like I said, episode 50 was like a big deal. Like not a lot of shows make it past 10 episodes. So making it to 51 seems surreal. Uh, this is Beyond the Finish Line is my baby. Uh, it's a labor of love, but also it's time consuming. So you guys listening means a lot to me. Like time is invaluable. So thank you so much for giving me that time. Um, I won't go on and on about that, but thank you all so much. Like I always say, just thank you. Also, Hustle in the Heartland registration is open. Get in there. It's going to be an absolute blast. I'm trying to get all the pieces together, but hopefully I'll be able to launch shirts soon. That's what I'm working on next. Obviously, I'm going to have like probably the sickest awards, like I always do. So registration's open. I want 100 runners. We're getting close. We've almost beat our numbers from last year, and those are a lot of repeat signups. So that means a lot to me because like I always say with with woodworking or like awards or art, whatever I've sold in the past, you can get someone to spend money once. To have someone come back and then give you money again for an item or like a thing, that is like the greatest honor. Because I put my heart and soul into this thing, and I just want you guys to appreciate it as much as I do. So sign up for Hustle in the Heartland. Registration is open. Reach out to me. I have no problem with giving away. I love giving away discount codes. So if you need like a promo code or something, I've got a few of those that I can set up. Like I had like an early bird code. Just whatever. Just reach out to me if there's like a money barrier. Let's work on it. Let's make it happen. I just want to see 100 of my friends hustling literally hustling their hearts out, walking their hearts out, showing up in the best way possible. Um, so yeah, that's coming up October 10th. I mean, just like a mile from my house. And the EAC is going to be there. Everyday Athlete Clubhouse is going to be there. So Santino, who is my guest today, how awesome is that? Is going to be there. Jason and Lori, they're coming all the way from the West Coast. From Phoenix all the way to come here. We've got a lot of great people showing up to this thing, so I'm really stoked. But on that, today's guest is Santino Williams. This is a running podcast, but Santino's so many more things than just a runner. We'll get into that story. But Santino, if you guys listen to the show, you know Santino well. He's a big part of the network. He's a huge piece of the puzzle of what makes the EAC do its thing, and not only that, but he's become a good friend of mine, like a confidant. Me, him, and Jason, and we always had this like rotating group message. Usually it's just me saying the most random shit or like vent. I've been doing a lot of venting lately, and so I can't believe it took me this long to have Santino on the show. And lately, he's been a co-host with me. We've been co-hosting together. What's in the Earbuds, where we basically talk about Tool and then sometimes other forms of music. And you guys all chime into that, which makes that show so special. So I'll just get to it, and without further ado, let's bring Santino forward for this podcast. What's up, Santino?
I'm hanging in there. How about you?
Right on. Yeah, same. It's weird. We're trying to we're not talking about music today. We probably will talk about music,
For
but
sure.
yeah. So episode 51. I just realized that there's like shit. I haven't had Santino on on this show. I guess it just feels like since we host What's in Your Earbuds lately together, it's like, oh yeah, I never had you on this show. So and we did the roundhouse tables together and all that stuff. But So yeah, thanks for coming on episode 51.
For sure.
Um,
No, I mean the pleasure is all mine. It's an honor to be here. That's for sure.
yeah, well, like I do with every show, I like to give everyone some like space to introduce themselves to anyone who might be listening. So I guess like the big question is, who is Santino Williams?
Oh boy. And I was thinking about that because I was watching some older episodes on YouTube today. And I really I've never been very good with like intros for myself, but I don't really have any one title, and I don't think that's anything unique to me. I think that's just sort of part of know the human experience. Is we're all very multifaceted. But I'll say at least as far as like the running space is concerned, I really am just kind of as my bio on IG says, just another middle aged dude trying to be a little bit better version of himself. And that to steal from the famous Coach Bennett, this is about running. This is not about running. I try and apply that philosophy to pretty much all facets of life. Some I do better at it than others, of course, but it's a process. Um, but it's one of those things where the older I get, the more I do kind of embrace the title of runner. Honestly, it wasn't until I was in my 40s before I was even kind of okay with calling myself that, and things like everyday athlete. Come on, I mean, yeah, I played sports when I was a kid, but I never considered myself that. So I guess to really kind of boil it down to give a more concise answer is I am just a runner who is on a journey that I don't know will ever have a destination.
Oh, I love that. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah, I think about that a lot. It's like when I'm always working towards a certain thing. Like, what does like the finish line even look like for this? So to just say like I'm on a journey with no destination, I like that a lot better actually.
For sure. Well, because the thing is, it's like I'll think about it, right? And I have, and I've talked about it on other podcasts and stuff. I have a running goal in mind that's achievable. And I've certainly set other goals that I've hit. And the thing is, you always do that, and it's like, great, what now? So there really isn't a finish line. I mean, think about the first time you signed up for a race or whatever. I think we all probably, there's nerves, there's whatever, this and that. But as soon as you cross the finish line, it's like, hey, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do this again. And even if you decide, that you're gonna be a one and done type runner, I'm sure there's something you're taking out of it where it's like, okay, what's my next challenge now? That sort of thing. So I don't know. Do we ever really reach the destination in anything? Not to
Yeah.
sound like too philosophical there,
Yeah.
but
No, but that's a good point. I mean, yeah, I guess I've never thought about it that way. Yeah, definitely. Wow. So I guess to like start us to like you say you're on this journey um you're on many journeys. We're all on like a bunch of different we're all on several journeys. But I guess like to kind of like bring it back to like running, like where did you start? Like what was your first finish line there, I guess?
it really took me a long time to get into more organized running. I've been running off and on for about 20 years, but it was always more kind of the fitness element. It's the same story you hear from a lot of people because I did play sports as a kid, and running was essentially a punishment. It wasn't something I really liked. Um, the older I got, it was just more of a fitness thing. So it's like, why go walk for a couple miles when I can get it done much faster running? And so it was a very utilitarian thing. Um, and I would do that off and on, just usually if I'd get to a point where I was feeling like I needed to lose weight, or energy levels weren't there. There was whatever, some you're going through something in life and you just need that ritual to clear your head. um Running was always kind of that, but I still, throughout all of that, almost looked at it as like a punishment. It was just sort of like, let's get this done and then move on to whatever. Like I said, whether it's I need to clear my head, or I need to lose weight, or I need to whatever. There was, and this kind of dovetails in what I was saying. I was sort of treating it as though there was an end goal to this thing. Pandemic rolls around, um, and like all of us, I'm kind of cooped up in the house. I was working for a fairly large hotel chain that it's global. I was working in promotions for them, and they pretty much laid off our whole department during the pandemic because people aren't staying in hotels. They don't need promotions. Um, and thinking back on it now, I don't. It makes for a better story to say, "Oh, I was so depressed and whatever." I hated that job anyway, so I could use that as an excuse. But the larger point is, I had a lot of free time on my hands, not working. Ended up gaining a bunch of weight, like a ridiculous amount. And I'd gotten to the point one day where it's like, okay, gotta do something about this. So again, let me go back to doing what I'm doing before. Um, but living out in Arizona and it being a bajillion degrees, I had bought an elliptical rather than a treadmill. Just 'cause I don't even remember why I chose the elliptical. I think maybe it was like on sale. It was cheaper. And it's like, oh, I like the elliptical at the gym. Yeah, let's have one at home, whatever. Um, Fast forward about a year, my elliptical broke, and it's like, well, running has always been there for me, and whatever. Let's give it a try. And it just started out as, again, just a fitness thing. Let me get this prescribed distance in, and I found that there was something, and maybe it had been there before, and I just didn't notice, but something had clicked, and there was this sort of not even mental element, but just kind of overall, again, not clearing your head, not whatever, but there was just some connection in my mind. It was just as much, my brain as the rest of my body, where it's like, oh, I'm actually enjoying this. So this is, of course, around the time like lockdowns are ending, whatever, this and that. And there's a race that's held in my town. I live in it's a big enough town. I can say the name. I live in a city called Goodyear in Arizona, just like the tires, yes. But there's a ballpark where they have spring training for the Cincinnati Reds and the Cleveland Guardians. Well, every year right before spring training kicks off, they host a 5K at the ballpark, and it's like, I've always wanted to do this, but it's so intimidating, whatever, this and that. So had a couple weeks, signed up for it. It was, a very affordable race, so it was like, okay, even if I don't do it, I'm only out like $30-$40. I don't even remember what it was. um but there was still that intimidation that you're not a real runner, you're going to embarrass yourself out there in front of these people, whatever, this and that. So just kind of a relic from the pandemic was a lot of virtual races, which this is why I will never dump on somebody for doing virtual races, because that was like I had done. You can do like really long distance ones, and even now sometimes during training, just as something, if I'm struggling to stay in the groove or whatever, I'll sign up for like a 500 mile or 1,000 mile or whatever, this and that, where it's like, yeah, over the course of a couple months, you don't even realize what you're doing, and then like a medal shows up in the mail one day, and it's like, oh, cool, I forgot about this, that sort of thing. But I was doing much shorter distances then, and just kind of googling like times and whatever, and it's like, what, like, yeah, I think I can hang. um Ended up doing like, I should remember, 23, 24 minutes, something like that. So, a respectable 5K time. And it's like, oh, like I can actually like do this. Like there's people like talking to me afterwards, like like they don't know that this is my first race. This is amazing. So I don't know, I don't know if you could call that fake it till you make it or what it is, but there was just some element of, allowing myself to feel that legitimacy, that it's like, well, if I can do one 5K, let's try another. So I, just kind of started looking up when other 5Ks would be, whatever. So I'd run a couple of those. And then that's when you start kind of getting the itch for, let me try longer distances. Um, Found out I do not like 10Ks. 10K is my absolute least favorite distance. I think to this day, I think I've only run three 10Ks in my life. Hate them. um, And at some point, it was like, well, this was, of course, also right around the time the running boom was really taking off on social media. And it seemed like it was just the normal thing to run marathons. It's like, well, what would really be involved here? So, you do the Google searching and whatever. And I had known people who had run them before. I actually had when I lived in California, I had some neighbors across the street who they were sort of like the very cool, like young childless rich couple, and like that was the thing, is like that was her hobby, was running marathons. So I'd sit and chat with them about it, and again, as a fitness thing, sometimes I'd go out running with them or whatever, but it still seemed like such a daunting thing. So just kind of as luck would have it, the San Francisco Marathon was about 4 months away from the time I was like, okay, I'm gonna run a marathon. And I had told myself, oh, I'm gonna do it in the fall. San Francisco is one of the few like real big ones that's in the summer, just because San Francisco the climate stays really nice in the summertime. And being from the Bay Area and everything, I thought, okay, well, this might be kind of special. Why don't I try it? I've got 3 months, whatever it is. I think I can do this. At the same time, I actually had run my first half marathon, probably a month after that. I was already registered for San Francisco, but it was sort of like, well, let me get a taste of what I can do, and I loved it. So it's like, okay, cool. If I can handle the half, I can handle the full. Um, and just kind of a lot of trial and error. I that was obviously I wasn't working with a coach at that time. That was definitely kind of the most shot in the dark training block I'd ever had. um, but the goal was to finish, and I finished, and it was like, oh, this is something I can handle. So I think really as soon as I had gotten home, maybe a day or two later, I started looking up other marathons, and I had signed up for my next one right after that. And it was really at that point. Even then, though, there was still that like level of imposter syndrome. And this is where I will say I advocate for, you don't have to, but it is helpful if you work with a coach. It wasn't until I don't even remember. I think it was San Francisco the following year was the first time I decided to work with a coach. And I had a couple marathons under my belt at that point, because I didn't really understand the process of deloading and recovery and whatever. And it's, again, social media. Anyone who's watching, social media is not real. It's not normal for people to run like 6 or 7 marathons a year. Don't let them gaslight you into that. Um, but I had hired a coach, and at one point he had referred to me as a marathoner, and it's like, oh, this is a guy who like literally he's like from like a running lineage. Like his dad OTQ'd, and like he was like an NCAA like big shot, and probably also would have OTQ'd had he not gotten injured and things like that, whatever. And just somebody whose somebody who like they had that resume and they consider me a marathoner. God, that was incredible to me. And this was also around the time that I had kind of gotten in with RTB and everything, and just the concept of the everyday athlete. And it's like, can I really own this title? Um, and yeah, it all kind of came together there. So it was a very kind of long and meandering path to get there, but it was also kind of always there, if it makes any sense.
Yeah.
Um, and then that particular SF marathon was the one where it was like, I think I'd run like a 4:15 or something, and it's like, okay, I know I can get under 4. And that to this day is still like my big running goal, is under 4 at the SF marathon. I've gotten under 4 in other marathons before, but I've just never been able to bring the two together. Last year I really thought I was going to do it, and it was just one of those things where I think I had honestly kind of overthought it a bit. I had a little bit longer training block. I was training a little bit more intensely. And I remember during my longest long run of that training block, that was my 20 miler, which I had gotten done in a little less than 3 hours. And it's like, oh, I'm golden right here. And then this thought hit me like later that day. It's like, oh shit, what if you're peaking right now? And I think that's exactly what happened. I think I was a little spent going into it last year. So we'll see how we do this time around. But if not, just keep going until we get it. But again, it's one of those things where it's like you do that and then what? It's like what now? Find a new goal, because again, no destination ultimately.
Yeah. Do you still find yourself like, you said you found like RTB and you started like kind of like owning the title of like everyday athlete, which is something I struggle with too. But do you find that like when I've heard people like introduce me like on a podcast or like talk about me, it's like weird to hear that you're like to hear the title marathoner. Like I'm just like no, like that just doesn't seem like doesn't seem like something that should ever be in front of my name or whatever. But do you find that you still like struggle like kind of owning that the kind of like the title like yeah I am an athlete like do you still like struggle like with like that imposter syndrome of like having that title I guess.
I do. It's one of those things where if I say it about myself, it's almost like God, how can I articulate this in a way that it isn't like too self-deprecating, but also not too ridiculous? It's almost like when you make like a big goal or something like that, and it's like, oh, someday I'll be X, Y, and Z. Especially like when you're a kid and you have these like crazy ideas in your head about whatever. And I think there's like part of you in the back of your head that's like, okay, but even if I don't, it's whatever. It's. But then like once you actually get there, it's like, wait, I have done this now. Like I struggle to accept it. I guess if that I guess that's a better way of putting it is,
Yeah.
um, I can accept it. I can wrap my head around it in concept, but then in reality, it's like, wait, has this actually happened? That sort of thing. Um, I struggle with it less though now, and I do find that it's one of those things where if you're kind of using it for and I don't mean to sound so self-aggrandizing here, but if you're kind of using your title, your position or whatever for good, it's easier to kind of accept it. If it's somebody I know, there's a couple runners in the neighborhood, and there's some dudes like kids who are just like absolute killers out there, and it's like, you know, you're already probably in a position where your PR whenever you decide to jump into the marathon is going to put mine to shame. So let me, just kind of lead by example here. Or even not just kids, like older people who maybe they have no desire to ever run a marathon or whatever, but it's like I know for me some days when I'm lacking motivation but I see so and so out there, it's like, okay, cool, I got to get out there too, and I hope that I can kind of provide that same thing for them when they're having their kind of low point days. Um so in that sense, it's like if I can use it to legitimize myself as a motivator, as a hype man, as a cheerleader, whatever you want to call it, then yeah, no, totally, I will accept that title. But if it's just, me giving myself my flowers here, I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, I refuse, but at the same time, there is always that, what? Are you me? Like, no. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that. It's like um someone's like, "Oh, wow, like an ultra marathon." It's just like, it's not as like romantic as you think it is. It's like there's like at one point I like was like barely moving. I almost cried a few times. I was like trying to force food. I was trying to force food down my throat at mile 20 something.
Right.
It's not at all like the David Goggins book.
No, and that's the whole thing. And but see, okay, here's my thing with that too is I do feel it's important to not take yourself so seriously. And who knows, maybe if we were all at that point where we're just like doing this vocationally and we're getting these crazy brand deals and writing books and whatever, maybe it's different. I'd like to truly believe that if I were in that position, I would still not want to take myself so seriously, because it's it's one of those things where, like you said with ultras, and I've yet to run an ultra. In fact, Hustle I'm going to treat like my first official ultra.
Ooh.
I've got my mileage goal in mind there.
Oh,
Um,
dude. Yeah.
but it's one of those things where I think people do maybe not even see it as like glamorous or whatever, but oh, it's so cool that you did X, Y, and Z. It's like, Buddy, you didn't see me on my training run like choking on nerd clusters because I got a Charlie horse and I dropped my water bottle in a bush somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing cool about this. I'm a big dork. But, you know, but, and see, now that kind of goes antithetical to the whole hype man thing. But in a way, no, because you do have to be able to kind of ride that line, you know, ride that line between, yes, I'm very capable, yes, I can do this, whatever, this and that, but also at the end of the day, we're paying, you know, hundreds of dollars to you know, run through a city that they've shut down for us, or run through the woods or whatever, this and that. Like, you know, I'm not as big of a trail runner as you are, but you know, did the Salt Lake Foothills with Jason last month, and it's like the fondest memories I have of it were, you know, kind of almost playing these like Lord of the Rings scenarios in my head while we're up in the foothills and it's like foggy and whatever, this and that. And it's like, we are, you know, grown men in our 40s and 50s out here, and I'm sitting here like pretending we're in like Mordor or something. Like, what
I love
but you know, at the same time, it's like that's what gets you through. And I was able to say I finished. I didn't finish in a time that, you know, anybody is gonna write home about or whatever, but it is one of those things I do feel where like you got to have fun first and foremost, because what the hell are you doing out there otherwise? um but yeah, you know, it's really tough sometimes to find that balance as well, and that's kind of a reminder that I always have to give myself. I know we've all kind of been dealing with a bit of burnout lately. And like today, for example, Thursdays are always a little bit rough just with between my work schedule, and my daughter has a standing appointment on Thursday mornings. I usually don't get morning workouts in, and I'll go, you know, after dinner, and I may still go out for a run tonight or something like that. But it's one of those things where once it starts feeling like an obligation, I can't speak for everyone, but I can certainly speak for myself here. That's when I really don't want to do it, because it's like I have enough obligations in life. Like, this is supposed to be like my thing. This is supposed to be my fun time. This is supposed to be my downtime. Like, it shouldn't feel like a chore. And like all of the, you know, stay hard, nobody cares, work hard, or whatever this, if that's your motivation, great. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it just, it wouldn't work for me, put it that way. Like, I feel ultimately at the end of the day, like some of the things I am on some level impressed that I've been able to, you know, achieve some of the times and things like that that I have. Again, I don't think my PRs are, you know, anything to scream about, but they're all respectable.
it.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like, yeah, I could push myself, you know, that much harder and maybe shave this much time off, whatever. But if I end up hating it, if I end up even more burnt out, if I end up not wanting to do it, and then, you know, never mind injuries or whatever, it's, we don't often factor in that mental component. If, you know, which that in and of itself is kind of an injury, that mental burnout, sometimes you do need to take that downtime. And if I'm just so burnt out that I don't want to do it then afterwards, was it worth it to push yourself to save that extra, you know, however many seconds off your PR? No.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, so you touched on like a few things because it's like um, you kind of mentioned like it is supposed to be like enjoyable, and that's something that like I really had to like lean into. And like you know, we obviously you know I've been like I shared with you and Jason a lot about like I'm just kind of, I've been kind of like going through it like burnout. I'm just like I'm fucking toasted, but it's like this is supposed to be fun, like, and I think I guess what I'm trying to make my point with this is like I was like focused at one point at like metrics and like all that stuff, and I had like a more structured workout, and I've been able to like kind of learn to like run more with my heart versus like having something on the schedule because to your point, it makes it feel like an obligation, and I've been able to like now shift to like I'm just gonna like run kind of how far or how fast I just feel like literally in the moment like I quit like planning those out like a year ago because like I mean I almost wanted to just like quit because it was like it felt like something I had to do on top of, all these other obligations that we all have throughout the day. As I didn't want running to be one of them. I guess you just made me think about that. I guess
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's honestly, to me, that's a huge sign of maturing as a runner, is being able to kind of know when to not even necessarily dial it back. But I know for me, there have been times, and maybe not in this kind of most recent permutation of my running journey. That might not be true, but it maybe hasn't been as intense. But say if I'm running for weight loss or whatever, back in the day, you'd feel like, oh, if I miss today's run, then I've undone all this progress and this and that, whatever. And you really start beating yourself up, and you get down on yourself. And ultimately it does lead to that burnout that I feel will sideline you for months, if not forever. So there is something about just kind of honoring the fun side of it, the almost as adults. I feel like we don't feel we're allowed to kind of have that playtime anymore. I'm sure there's a better way of saying it than that, but that's kind of what this is. Some people, and this is why I know a lot of people like to shit on adults who have like weird hobbies or whatever. That's their playtime. As long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you're not doing anything, just like too off the wall, that's really causing problems in your own life or whatever. Who cares if you're 40 something years old and you're still a gamer, or you're going to cons or whatever, this and that. That's our version of it. But we always have to kind of frame it as something we've earned, something that we're working towards a bigger goal or whatever. Why can't we just go out and run for the sake of running, just for the movement, for the ability to be outside in the fresh air, in the sun, and just the feeling of your feet on the pavement, the feeling of kind of going fast. I'll catch myself sometimes. I don't know even where this started, and I should be more embarrassed to admit it than I am. But I'll catch myself sometimes when I'm running, like singing along to the music, when I have like my earbuds in or whatever. And it's those moments to me that are like, this is what it's all about. I'm out here. It's like being a kid again. There's really something very kind of freeing. You're so uninhibited. You're just allowing yourself to be yourself at that moment. And I don't know. I feel like that's, and it can't always be like that, of course, but that's like what we're after. Versus, and again, if somebody else, if your thing is PRs, if you're really into the metrics, if you're really into all of that, I'm not saying you're doing it wrong. I'm just saying, when I tried to do that, it isn't what worked for me. um but yeah, it's like, let me just get out there and cut loose. Let's see what happens. Let's see what I can do with this here. And to that end, really, just because we have had these conversations about burnout before, um I think about running goals and things like that, whatever. And it's like, ultimately, the only goal I should have is to just get out the door and do it. And even some days, even that's not something you have to do, because again, you don't want it to feel like an obligation.
Yeah, 100%. And something. Oh wait, I wanted to add something to something you said a little bit ago, just so you don't feel alone in this.
Oh,
First
for
of
sure.
all, I love when you're like feeling yourself when you're running, and like the music's hitting and you're singing along to it, or just like, I don't know, you're just kind of running with like glee, like
Yeah.
you're running. There's no one else in the world. That's like my favorite thing. But also, you were talking about. Um, I want to ask you more questions about your first trail run, but you were talking about how you're like kind of imagining yourself running like through Mordor. I did a 12-hour last month, and it was like through like this like swamp with like mangroves, and I was like kind of envisioning that, like I was like, literally, this is where like a T-Rex would definitely pop out. Like, so, so and we're of the same age, so don't feel bad about that. Like, and I've been at places like this is some straight up Lord of the Rings shit. Like this is,
Right.
so I'm glad that I'm not alone, but in that feeling. But yeah, so I just wanted to add to that. But yeah, certainly, I think you should just like I like you said, I feel like you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like like the way I feel about running lately. It's been it hasn't been always the way I approached it. It's been like I've kind of had like a violent shift towards that mindset recently, where I do like to kind of run more for joy. Like I, really don't pay attention to pace or whatever, but I just kind of run for like just the pure joy of like movement anymore because it's like I can't, like sometimes I just can't believe I get to do it. Like distance is relative, but like when I have done some of my bigger distances, I'm just like just really kind of eternally grateful that I can even go that far. Like I feel
It's
like I feel like not to like diminish any distance. Like my first run ever was a 5K, and that was still to this day the most important one. Like not even like the most important run that I've ever done because it was such a big benchmark in like my journey leading up to today. Like I've been open about it, sobriety and weight loss, and mental health struggles. Like my first 5K was like such a big benchmark, and like not that I've overcame that. I mean, obviously, like like that's a journey in itself. You're always working on those things, but it's like such a big like benchmark in that journey. So it's like to this day, if someone asks me like what like what was the most important finish line, like it's that 5K. So I'm not trying to like say that like 5Ks are important because I have my first 5K was the most important one of my most important memories. So, but building on that, like like it's just amazing that we get to like do these things, whether it's a 5K or 100 miles. Like I just think that's it's just such an incredible miracle, I guess, to even move your body that far.
no, it really is. That's kind of the whole thing. It's one of those things where, you know, I guess you could get into the whole, oh, if you could tell your younger self whatever this and that. There's certainly a lot of younger versions of me that wouldn't believe that, I'm out, running marathons at 42 years old or whatever. But then even beyond that, it is sort of, not to sound really cliche here, but it is sort of like how you find yourself. Um and a story that I've kind of been sharing a lot lately, just kind of going back to uh putting the numbers out of your head, whatever this and that. My absolute worst by well over an hour marathon time. That's the marathon I'm the most proud of. And that was Oakland earlier this year. I still don't know exactly what happened. I don't know if I hit the wall. I don't know what. I just, something seized up at mile 18. I literally, every time I tried to run, I could not get more than a couple steps before my whole leg started screaming at me. So I had to walk the last, almost 8 miles. And I finished in almost 6 hours. So really, almost 2 hours off of my kind of average pace. Um, and that was the most proud I was because one, I'm walking through Oakland and I love that city. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. And, just kind of feeling the energy of Oakland, but then the people running, the people along the route, they see you walking, they see that something's not quite right and they're still cheering you on. And, you know, pe- people checking on me on my phone because I had posted something, whatever. And that just that kind of sense of community right there. It was like, again, it really fills your cup. It goes so far beyond that. But then at the same time, there was this level, this element of, hey, you know what? The worst has just happened and I could handle it. So, you do again kind of find yourself there. And yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it was so much fun or whatever, but it's like, hey, this isn't so bad. I'm still getting something out of this. I got more out of that than say like my PR, which is 3:56 or something like that. So a little under 4 hours, where, I couldn't really tell you a lot of details of that race. I remember, a few things, but they were snapshots because it was essentially just head forward, focused on, the person in front of me for 4 hours until I crossed the finish line, which that was great too, because it was like, I did what I had set out to do there, but I didn't really walk away with nearly as much as I did, um, you know, in that 6 hour finish. So there is kind of something about that too. And, you can call it heart, you can call it grit, whatever. I don't like to wade into those waters. Not that there's anything intrinsically wrong with it, but it's not that serious to me, you know.
Yeah.
It's just it was one of those things, and it got taken care of. But ultimately, I walked away feeling very fulfilled from it, just from the overall experience.
Oh, I like that. It's like not calling it a failure because I mean, like you finished it, but it's like you almost kind of learn more from that race than like your PR race. I think that's just kind of I guess that's kind of profound in a way. It's like I've learned probably more things from my the 100 mile distance eludes me to this day, but I think I've learned more off of my two DNFs than I have like than some of my like more successful I guess like races. But I mean I guess there's give and take there because I've had some really good races like wow that went surprisingly well, but then I had to
Oh
like
yeah.
kind of I had to like think back to what I learned like. But when you like have a race that doesn't go your way, it's like you're kind of brutally confronted with what, like why it's going that way. So it's like I think the lessons are kind of like up front more so than like a success, whatever that looks like. Like yeah, I guess that's just interesting.
Absolutely. And I mean, even beyond that, I think it would be one of those things where if it's too easy, what are you doing it for? I not to disparage anyone who participates in them, but it's like, if I just wanted to kick everybody's butt, yeah, let me go find like some fun run, out in the middle of nowhere where it's, 20 participants, and let me take myself way too seriously out there, whatever. And like, oh, sure, you're going to podium, you're going to whatever, but like you're missing out on the whole point of this thing. Then again, on the other side of it, it is fascinating to watch, the real kind of like killers out there. And some of the more, like, we have the big one out here is the Phoenix 10K. That's at least as far as road races is concerned. Of course, you know all too well about some of the big trail races out here. But as far as road races, the Phoenix 10K is like or one of the more prestigious ones. And yeah, it's really cool to be able to say, oh, I ran, in the same, field as so and so, whatever, this and that. And just kind of being out there and comparing your time to theirs or whatever, and just being kind of awestruck that they were able to accomplish whatever they accomplished. It's like, that's super cool. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like, are they having any fun with this? Like, this I guess I'm saying, like, they get to a point where it becomes work for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is cool to like see those people that just like can throw down, but also it's like sometimes I'm like, damn, it kind of looks miserable. Really,
Right.
I mean, it is cool to see like when I've done some like out and back trail stuff, it's crazy to see some of the front. Like it's really wild to see people run 7 minute miles on technical trail. It's makes
Right.
no it makes no physical sense to me because I'm yeah like if I'm like a 12-minute mile, I'm having a good day on a hard trail. But like yeah, that's
Right.
oh, and funny. I've only ran 2 10Ks myself, so two or three. I've only ran 10Ks with my wife. I've never actually done. I've done a lot of 15K. Like for some reason, 10K is not a trail distance usually.
That's
It's like
true. Yeah.
yeah, it's like 5K. There's like a series here that does like 5K, 15K, which I make the awards for those series. But it's like a 15K, and then you go to like 50K, which is weird how that jumps like that. But just to going back to that, I've only ran like two or three myself. It's not my favorite distance at all whatsoever.
Mm.
I'd rather run a half marathon at that point.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like
yeah. Well, half marathon, you figure, not to say it's easy or whatever, but you can get into a comfy pace. I know for me, pretty much with the exception of the marathon itself, pretty much all of my PRs have come by accident. Where the AZ 48, which is a big-ish half marathon they have out in Tempe by ASU. Um, I had done it one year where it's like I just kind of tucked in with a pace group, and at one point I'm like, "Hey, I'm feeling good. I'm gonna go on ahead, and when these guys catch up to me, I'll fall back in line with them." And I just never, they never caught up to me, and it was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And yeah, that's the thing with the half. I feel like yeah, you can kind of set your pace and just hold it the whole time as long as you're comfortable. You're looking at somewhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours, and it's like it's done. The 10K, you're essentially going at 5K pace, but for twice as long. So, even the 5K, it's like this ain't necessarily fun, but it's a little over 3 miles. I can hold, I don't have my PR in the 5K is 1945. So what's that? A little under 7 minutes. So, and
Oh,
I was probably 20 pounds lighter then, and probably, I was in incredible shape. So it was one of those things where it was very much accidental. It's not like, oh, I wasn't trying. I was trying, obviously, but I wasn't trying to hit anything like that. It was like if I can break 20, it'll be cool. And it's like, oh damn, I broke 20 by 15 seconds. Um,
nice.
but yeah, it's for whatever reason that 10K. I don't know. Maybe I'll make that a point next year is to sign up for at least one 10K just to prove to myself I can do it and have fun with it. But yeah, there's something about that grueling pace for that long that it's like, oh, I can't stand this.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do too. I'll have to do a 10K. I haven't done one. So I haven't done I think you know that I haven't done an official road marathon either. It's been like I don't know why. Like, well, I did like the normal, like I guess normal. I don't know if any of this is normal. It's like 5K. I did a couple 10Ks in my life. Then like half. Then I just like the rationale in my head. I still operate this way. Is like, well, if I'm gonna do a marathon, I may as well do a 50K. And then like it just got way out of control after that. And I'm like, and then for some reason, it's like I almost fear the marathon because it's like I would up until recently I was like basically pure trail runner, I
For
guess.
sure.
And I that's changed. I've ran, you know, I would say 90% of my miles this last year have been road like, by design because of what I'm doing. Like, well, and like next week, but or the week after, but and I've kind of fallen in love with it. Um, it's like I've almost taken my trail running like mentality and like brought it with me to the road in a way. But now I'm like shit, like this isn't that bad, and like I've actually come to really like road running because you get to see. I've got to see a lot of cool like I've had the chance to see a lot of my community that I lived here for 20 years, and I'm still seeing new things in my own town, which has been like very unique. So that was like a long story to say. I've been like thinking about like weird to say now that I think I'm ready for a marathon after like like what I've done on the trail. But I'm like I think finally I feel like also maybe am starting to feel like a real runner too. So it's like where trail running was like a way of me kind of escaping people. Now I feel more comfortable, like more accepted because of like the people like you and like Jason and Lori and like the EAC. Now I do kind of feel like I am like an athlete, like a runner. So I feel like more comfortable with like maybe doing like a more public like marathon, I guess. But so this
No,
is
I
something it's been
100. Yeah, no, I feel that 100%. And it's sort of the opposite with me for trail, where I had done a couple trail races, and there was just something that clicked with this last one that sort of demystified it for me. I don't know that I'll ever be somebody who's attempting some like 100 milers off road or anything. I don't want to. It's one of those never say never type things, but I have no plans for it currently. But at the same time, it's like, hey, I I can do this. I guess you just need those whatever they are, whatever kind of assistance to demystify it for you a bit. So I completely get that. And then to that end, whatever you pick for your first road marathon, you got to let us know. I will run it with you.
cool. Yeah, I mean, I don't know which one to do. My wife is doing her first one this November, and I think I'm going to do it an odd duck aid station at that. So I probably won't run that one. And I want her to like, I want it to be about her and not me. So it's like I don't want to sign up for like this is her day. It's like so I don't think I'll pick that one, but I definitely want to pick one. Well, two things. I'd like to pick one that forces me to maybe travel outside of my because it's like I do a lot of Indiana, Ohio, Illinois runs or like Michigan, Tennessee, Kentucky. Like I never really go anywhere like outside of like that perimeter. So it's like I'd like to use this as like to like force me to like run somewhere new too. So I really don't know what I'll do, but um, yeah, maybe I'll pick something out that way. That'd be kind of cool.
For sure, definitely.
So yeah, that's just been high on my list, and I've been like, even with the show, it's like I only talk to trail runners on the show. I've been talking to more road runners, but at the end of the day, I guess we're all just runners. Like, terrain's kind of irrelevant. But so tell me about. So like you said you've done trail races before, but this one was kind of like this. This one felt like how was the experience of this last trail race? I guess.
I hate to sit here and do the whole like real runner thing, whatever, but I think this was the first one that I kind of did the right way. I've done trail races in the past. There's one out here that I did it the last year they had it available, and I wish I would have gotten in on it beforehand. Called Hot as Hell, which again is out in Tempe, kind of by the college, um, and it's not a super technical trail or anything. It's more kind of a very middle of the road hiking trail, um, and so where I train, I live right up by the Estrellas, and there's some really great trails to run and hike there. But all of them are very, very fast. So I just assumed that's how, trail running is supposed to be. I was essentially kind of treating it like road running, where it's like um, there was a during Hot as Hell, there was this climb that I'm probably exaggerating now, but it felt like it was about 500 feet over the course of a half a mile. It was just straight up. I attempted to run that whole thing, and it's like, oh God, by the time I'm, maybe a half to three quarters of the way up, it's like I'm dying, and I'm looking around, and everybody's like hoofing it up there, and it's like, okay, these guys know what they're doing more than I do, but no, I can't stop, I can't. So even then, even as I'm like trying to like slow down, I'm still like telling myself that I have to run up this, and I got it done. I that's still the fastest trail half I ever ran. I got that done in just under 2 hours. Um, but I felt like absolute garbage afterwards. It wasn't that it wasn't fun at the time, but like the kind of aftermath of doing it, it's like, nope, not doing that anymore. I'm sticking to the roads, whatever. And I'd done a couple of shorter distances on trails out here as well. And it was kind of the same thing where it's, not making adjustments for the terrain, not necessarily not being smart about it, just kind of really, really grinding myself into the ground. Which again, just to go back to what we were talking about before, when you see people doing like 7-minute miles on trails, it's like the amount of athleticism that must require. I couldn't imagine. But every time I do them, it's like I felt like absolute garbage afterwards. The recovery was awful, and it's like, how do people do this? Why is this fun to people? This time around, one being out there with Jason, who's a very accomplished trail runner, but then two, just like the first mile of it was, I believe, like 800 feet of gain over the first mile. There is no way nobody was running up that thing. Like there was certain points where like it felt like I was gonna have to get on my hands and knees and crawl up that hill. And it's raining, it's muddy, whatever. But I was forced to slow down, and for whatever reason it just clicked at that point. It's like, oh, this is how you do that. You slow down at the hard parts and you run at the easy parts. And that was just sort of how I, again, it wasn't a super impressive time I finished in, whatever, but it was enjoyable the whole time. And it was pouring rain, it was muddy, it was cold, but it was fun. And again, a lot of kind of memories of being out there, and different kind of snapshots in my head. I think we had discussed, like, at one point, I don't know how we managed to do it, but we took a wrong turn. So it was Jason and I. We run into this other runner, the younger woman who had come out there specifically for that race, whatever. and we're all just sort of like looking at the route on our watches, and it's like, hey, I don't think we're on the right trail. And something like that in the past, that would have been devastating. I think about I had run one of the first 5Ks I ever ran. I overshot a turn. It was actually the first time I ever podiumed. I got third overall. I would have gotten second overall if I wouldn't have overshot that turn. I let that bother me for years afterwards. And, you know, fast forward to now, and it's like, we literally probably got a half a mile off course before we realized it, turned around, whatever. And it's like, you know what, we're having fun, this is awesome, whatever. So I guess that was sort of how it clicked for me, is finally, you know, being able to run the trails the right way, as it were. It's like, oh, now I see what people see in this is actually really awesome. So yeah.
Oh man, yeah. I remember my first 50K, um, Jackson, Washington. The trails in Indiana are crazy. It's like they're super steep, ascents and descents. There's not a single switchback in the state, and there's freaking roots everywhere. But my first 50K, I didn't know that either because I came off of like doing road to like the hardest trail 50K. I'd never even looked. I didn't even know like how to read an elevation or course map or anything. So I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I ran like the first 15, 20 miles of this thing, like running uphill. Like I was just like absolutely wrecked. And I remember there was like this older guy that kept catching me on the actual runnable part. And he was just like, dude, we don't run the uphills in these things. I was like, oh my God. I was just so glad that someone told me that. I was just like, I didn't know. Yeah, I was just like totally.
It feels like everybody knows something you don't, and then it finally clicks, and it's like, oh, now that's why that's the way it is. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it was humble pie. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, the amount of times I've gotten off course, yeah, yeah, it's just laughable. Like half the time, it's because I wasn't paying attention. Like it's like, dude, you have to pay attention where you're going. But
Yeah.
well, I guess I'm curious, like, because this has like been my common theme, is I've been like really curious what people are learning. Like, I talk about someone's journey, like like you said, it's like there is no, you don't have like a clear finish line. But I guess uh, I'm curious what do you think you've like learned between like Santino's first starting like your running journey to like you said like a wrong turn probably like could have derailed your day, weeks, months, years, and then like you had this moment recently where you're like, oh wow, it's not that big of a deal. So like it seems like you've kind of leaned into like maybe a little bit of a different mentality to like your running. Um, what do you think? Like you've had this like clearly like, to me it sounds like you've had some like pretty profound like mindset shifts along the way. And I guess I'm curious, what do you think you've like learned about yourself from early running to like now?
Oh man, that's a really great question. You know, it's tough because I'd say one of the biggest things is we all kind of, as runners, I think, I guess unless you are legitimately in the elite field or an Olympian or something like that, we all have this aha moment where we realize that we're only competing with ourselves. But I'd say more recently, the thing I've kind of learned is, even if you're competing with yourself, it doesn't have to be such an intense competition. It doesn't have to be, you know, such a whatever. It's maybe I'm not going to beat who I was yesterday. I think we all, okay. I guess to put it more concisely, we're all going to someday come to a point where it's like we're not topping whatever our PR is, our, you know, distance, time, whatever it is, PR. We're all going to come to a point where it's like that's the pinnacle. But does that mean you're going to stop? Does that mean you're going to, you know, maybe you're not pushing yourself as hard, but you're pushing yourself. And there is a distinction there. It's I've learned, I guess, to be a bit kinder to myself in that competition, if that makes any sense. It's sort of, it's one of those things where we're always evolving as runners, and it's obviously not always going to be a linear thing, but evolution doesn't always look like topping what you have done before. Maybe it's just building on it, maybe there will come a time where it's like, yeah, I was a 4 hour marathoner, but I'm still out there at, whatever age. And I'm averaging 5 hours, I'm averaging 6 hours, I'm whatever. Um, but I'm still out here doing it. And so you're only competing with this version of yourself. You're not competing with yourself from your 20s. You're not competing with yourself from your 30s. And that's not just running, that's life. You know what I'm saying? I know, and we've certainly kind of gotten deep about, conversations about life before between you and me and Jason, and even during the roundtables when Derek was involved as well, things like that. You can't necessarily measure yourself by the same metrics that you measured yourself with in the past. And yeah, on a micro level, I'm just talking about running, but really that's just life in general. It's, what was the norm in your 20s isn't the norm in your 40s. I'm sure it won't be the norm when we're in our 60s, or whatever, this and that. So, just to bring it back around to that element of, you're not competing with anyone but yourself. Which version of yourself? You have to kind of keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I like that. It's almost like you have to like. It's almost like you have to be able to give yourself a little bit of grace to like move the goalposts too. And it's like it may not be
Absolutely.
as and it may not be as far as it used to be. Or so yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, and not that I'm like ancient, but I like I'm aging, so I'm having to like kind of readjust my expectations a little bit. And it's like not the funnest thing to do, but it's also like, yeah, it's okay. I mean, that happens. So yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you can look at it in funny ways too, and just think about, remember, like when you were, a kid, say you're in your 20s or whatever, out partying, whatever, and there was like the old, like, crusty dudes hanging out in the bar, and it's like, oh god, this, at some point it just becomes sad. It's like they're not even having fun anymore. Like, this is just their life now. Like, you don't want to be that person. You don't want to be stuck in that one same spot. So you have to let that evolve. Maybe you're the old guy who still goes out to the bars, but you're not going where the 20-year-olds hang out anymore, And it's the same thing with running. It's like, I'm the kind of person, there are people in our age group, and I don't want to shit on them, because that's their own personal hang up, whatever, but like, they still want to get out there and compete with the kids. And you know what, if you're physically able to do it, if you've got that, your mind and body are willing to do that, wonderful, good for you. But for me, it's like, let the young people have the young people's race. Let me race again. Let me compete with myself here, because it's like, there's 40-year-olds who would leave me in the dust, and then there's 40-year-olds who I would leave in the dust. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like, you can't compare eras, if that makes any sense. To
Yeah.
borrow to borrow from the basketball discourse, you really can't compare eras. So I'll get out there, and I'll root for the young men and women out there, doing their thing. And I think it's super cool, and it's downright inspirational. I don't know how weird it is as a 42-year-old to say watching a 20-year-old do their thing is inspirational to me, but sometimes it is. Um,
Oh yeah.
but at the same time, it's like, that's them, and let me be me, that sort of thing. Um, because it's we're all at different points in life. Age is only one factor there, but we bring a lot of different lived experience to the table, and that does kind of color everything, whether we want to admit it or not. It really does. So, there again is this element of, what am I looking to get out of it at this point? Because it would be weird if at this age I wanted the same things out of, well, I certainly don't, but let's say apples to apples. It would be weird if I wanted the same things out of running now that I did when I first started, when I was, say 20, or, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in the game that long, but it's certainly like what what I'm taking away from it has like wildly changed in just like the few
Absolutely.
short years. But so I totally get that 100%. Yeah. So I couldn't have you on the show without. I have to ask at least one music question.
Oh, of
So,
course.
and we host What's in Your Earbuds together. So, um, I'll try not to turn this into What's in Your Earbuds 2.0. But since you're on the show, I had to ask. So, what's something that you've been listening to lately? That, like, it's just become like hitting. It doesn't be really running, but just in life, what's in something that's like on your playlist that's just like really slapping lately?
Well, we did talk about it on What's in Your Earbuds the last episode, but that new Primus EP, I listen to it
God.
multiple times a day. I cannot think of. I think since I discovered it, I don't think I've had a single run where I haven't listened to that. So that's
100%.
definitely kind of my current musical fixation. And in addition, with it being the SF marathon coming up, I've been listening to a lot of the old Bay Area hip hop. For whatever reason, I kind of fell down a like white girl mob hole. So a lot of like Krayshawn and Little Debbie and all of them, that, back in that maybe what 2007, 2008, that MySpace era, MySpace Tumblr
Oh,
era. Um, but and then of course the classics, the Mac Dre, E40, a lot of Keek the Sneak this time around for whatever reason. But I do find that when I know I've got a Bay Area trip coming, I for whatever reason, that's the soundtrack leans heavily into, and honestly, Primus is a Bay Area group as well. So, yeah,
yeah. I love that. It's like you almost have like a regional playlist. It's like you have to get like hyped to go to the Bay Area. So it's like you almost have like a regional playlist for the Bay Area. I don't know if that's intense,
absolutely.
but that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I definitely do that depending on my terrain lately. And it took me a long time to recognize it because it's like I noticed when I was doing road runs, when I was still like trail running on the weekends, road running on the week, it's like I would go from like Mob Deep on Tuesday to like Tyler Shoulders on Saturday trail run. So it's like unintentionally I would like listen to like metal and like hip hop on the road, and then like bluegrass and like underground like outlaw country on Saturday and Sunday. It's like I didn't even
No,
know I was doing that.
I
Yeah,
totally get that though. Yeah. No, I do the same thing, and obviously I don't run trail that often, but when I do, it's almost exclusively either outlaw country or, for whatever reason, a lot of EDM. I like EDM out on the trail. I don't know
yeah.
why. I've never quite figured out that connection there, but there is something about it for me.
It definitely like I didn't listen to EDM until I ran Mohican with Derek, and like we were like sharing like what we were sharing earbuds, and I was like, oh, this makes sense out here. Like
Right? It
I would,
just works.
yeah, it just really does. And I was just like, I'm into this. I can't remember who it was, but it's like one of those. It was like a house remix. It was like that. What's the PD Pablo? Well, you know what PD Pablo song, the Raise Up song.
Yeah, yeah.
That was it was like that, but it was like mixed into like a house music EDM thing. And I was like,
Oh,
what
damn.
was, dude? It was a straight banger. I'm just like, it's like one of those things. It's like I can't find it again. Like I've been trying. I may just have to break down and be like, Derek, what the hell was that song? But yeah, it's like one of
Right.
I'm just like been looking for it ever since. But um, well, cool. Yeah, yeah. When's that? When is that marathon?
Almost a month from today exactly, the
Oh, nice.
26th of July, I believe. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, coming up. Are you excited? How are you feeling for it?
I'm definitely not feeling as ready. I just haven't been stacking the mileage. Like, I don't know what it is about this year in particular. Usually it takes me a bit to like fall into a groove of running in the oppressive, Phoenix heat. And it just has not happened this year. So I haven't been stacking as much mileage as usual. Normally for me, and I'm not super duper hardcore, but I like to get somewhere in the like 50 to 60 miles a week vicinity. Um, for marathon training, and then maybe peak at around somewhere in between 80 and 100. And so far, I think my longest mileage week has been just south of 50. So peak week, maybe I'll hit 70, which that's good enough. I'm not going to say I'm unprepared, but it's one of those things where I have not done quite as much as I was expecting I would do mileage wise. And who knows, maybe that'll be the trick. Watch me, watch me get that sub 4 this year with less miles in training. We'll see.
I mean, I don't certainly don't advocate to anybody else to do this, but last year, I had a December 100K and I barely broke like 20, 30 mile weeks leading up to that. And it was like one of the best 100Ks I've done. But also, it was not my first 100K. So let me preface that I had done quite a few before that. So I already knew and I've done this trail before. So definitely don't repeat that. So not ill advised. But honestly, it's like I went into that race like ready to run. I was just like kind of antsy. So it's like I felt like I was just ready to go. Like, and that's something I never really had. Like usually, it's like I always like I don't know if I don't do these right, but half the time I'm almost like a little bit wore out. It's like I'm like
No,
right now
absolutely.
I'm so ready to taper right now. It's like let's do this thing, but perfect
Well,
timing too.
you gotta be rolling into your taper real quick here, huh?
Yeah, I've still been run commuting, but I'm not doing any extra. I might ride my bike next week, but I'm not. When I say run commuting, I'm like I'm walking fast and then jogging a little bit. I'm not like throwing down on my way to work and back. But so it's
For
like
sure.
kind of kind of a taper, but I'm still staying on my feet, I guess. But
Yeah.
um,
And I
yeah,
think there
well,
is something to be said about like preserving that like freshness overall. You do kind of get to a point where it's like there ain't a whole hell of a lot more I can do in terms of building. So, why run myself into the ground at this point?
yeah. I think that's about where I'm at. I mean, I'll probably still run commute. Maybe switch to bike next week, and then I'll do a lot of walking. But that'll be about it.
Yeah.
Um, kind of a lot of unknowns on this one. I've never done anything like this before, so we'll see how that goes. Well, okay. I guess I should give you kind of preference for this question, but well, first of all, Santino, thank you for coming on. You know, I like you've become a good friend of mine. It's been really awesome getting to know you. I think we're building something really special with the EAPN, the EAC, and RTB, and ODR, and all the different all the different acronyms that we add to this thing, and more coming. But so yeah, I guess that's just kind of like a tip of the hat. Like it's been cool getting to know you. I'm really excited to meet you in real life. That'll be coming up like 130 days, I think. I need to get my t-shirts ready, but or at least get a design ready. So it's been cool getting to know you, and yeah, just thanks. You don't get a chance to like thank someone for their friendship very often. So just thank you for your friendship. It's been pretty awesome. Um,
For sure. No, and likewise. No, I really appreciate our friendship, and it's really awesome. The work that we're doing here. I think we have one hell of a team, and just even beyond that, just kind of the bonds we have here. Not just talking about work stuff or whatever, but when we do have those days where and I know you feel like it's just you, but believe me, it's all of us, because I do it a lot too, where it's like I can just kind of scream into the void on the group chat, and you guys are there to kind of walk me back off the ledge. It's like, this is awesome.
I feel bad to have been doing a lot of that lately. I'm spiraling some days. I'll be okay. I promise. But,
For sure.
oh my god. It's like um, before I started businesses, I was like, man, it must be so cool. But it's not what you think it is. It's
Oh
so much
God,
harder.
no. It's like the same level of burnout with like zero safety net, because it's like
Yeah, I
there's
mean, it's
no
like,
guaranteed like money at the end of the week or whatever. Like you're still out there hustling, and yeah,
yeah, it's a journey, that's for sure.
for
Um,
sure.
so I definitely appreciate that because, like, like it's hard to find people that can like relate on that, and you guys both certainly understand. I'm still so new at this, so it's been even if I'm just like ranting, it's been cool to have that connection and that group chat. But uh, well, something I like to do also. Um, thank you for coming on, like I said. But if you had to like leave us with some closing advice for the show, like what would that be? Like it doesn't have to necessarily be running related. Maybe just like life related in general.
Ah, God. you know, it would it's something that I remind myself a lot, is that whatever it is, whatever the current struggle is, whatever, you may be beating yourself up over, and again, yeah, running related, not running related, whatever, you'll figure it out. You always do. And this is me talking to myself, but this is me talking to you, this is me talking to everybody listening as well. It's We wouldn't be here if we didn't have the ability to figure these things out. And you think back on any sort of monumental challenges you've had in life, and even if things didn't necessarily work out the way you were hoping they would or whatever, it's you survived and you're here to talk about it now. And nothing is so big that you're not going to figure it out. I tell myself that. Believe me, with the level of burnout, with just kind of the world at large lately, I've been telling myself that a lot lately. So, if that's kind of my, I guess, words of wisdom that I could share with everyone, it would be that is you'll figure it out.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I love that. Oh, one more thing, just because we're more than just runners. What's something I did curious? I mean, I guess I probably know a bit about you because we talk a lot. But what's something about you that's just not running related at all? Just like a fun fact, or like like something like a hobby or something that you do that's just like zero running relation.
Um, I've certainly touched on it before, and it's one of those things where it certainly doesn't jive with running so much, just from one, a fitness standpoint, and two, whatever. But I'm the wine guy. I used to work as a som. That was one of my favorite jobs I ever had. I lived essentially in the Napa Valley. I was right on the border there, so I spent a lot of time. I collect. I'm on some fairly hard to get on mailing lists that not through any like connections or whatever, other than just being kind of annoying and being in the right place at the right time, that sort of thing. um so that's sort of that's my thing. Is there's something about, and it's not even just, oh, sitting and drinking wine. And obviously, you've gone through a sobriety journey. I know Jason has as well. So it's one of those things where I'm not going to sit here and like push it on people. Even beyond that, I do kind of feel like you reach a certain age where it's not cute to run around getting sloppy drunk and whatever. And I'm not Mr. Morality police telling people they shouldn't, but you reach a point where it just doesn't become compatible with life anymore. But there is something so very artistic to me about kind of the winemaking process. I've gotten to know winemakers over the years, and I've been very lucky to kind of be invited to wineries, to events, things like that, and actually kind of get to be a part of the process. I've gotten to volunteer at harvest before, things like that. And again, it kind of dovetails with growing up in a very artistic family. Obviously, my mom is a vocational artist. That's just, she does art for a living, which is, I don't think I really fully had an appreciation for how awesome something like that is until I was much older. And I have a cousin who's a fairly famous musician, and I've grown up around art, so I kind of like to view things through that lens. I'm not necessarily the most artistic person, but I do kind of like to pat myself on the back for, being able to stop and appreciate art wherever it is. And there is something just so very artistic about not just the winemaking process, but wine in general. To me, that's one of my big hobbies, is collecting. And obviously, we don't have a ton of wineries in the Phoenix area. There are some, and again, we're going to get that tool mentioning.
Yeah.
Maynard, of course, has a winery out in Arizona. Um, and there is something really cool about just kind of being out there, being in the vineyards, being surrounded by that. It's something, very, I use the word alchemical, and I'm sure there's probably a less douchey word to use, but you're literally taking the soil, you're taking, uh, depending on where you're planting your vines, that's, going to impact the actual grapes themselves. You're taking this essentially transitory product, you're taking grape juice and you're turning it into something else. And I don't know, there's something about that that's always been really fascinating to me. When I was a little kid, I was really fascinated with cooking and things like that. And there was a cooking show on PBS. Uh, Jacques Pepin with his daughter Claudette. I don't remember which. I don't remember the title of that show, but one with his daughter. She was not the best cook, um, but for whatever reason, I don't know. I learned that she had become a som, and that was really fascinating to me. And it sort of inspired me. It was like, I don't know that I would want to work in kitchens or whatever. Um, and I certainly, had enough experience working in restaurants. But there was something about that, like, yeah, the som. This is like a position I could do. This is something I could be. This is something really, really fascinating. To the point that when I had taken my first exam, I'm a level 2, so there's 4 levels altogether. But when I'd taken my first exam, just kind of, it was again almost like that running that first 5K thing, where I knew my stuff, but just actually getting out there among these people who were, I felt more professional than me, but it's like, hey, we're all getting the same certification here. Um, and just being able to do it, it just, I don't know, that was one of those very first sort of like moments of, you feel so capable, you feel whatever. And I do kind of feel I owe, in some strange way, I owe that to wine. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, I don't like I'm on like a sobriety journey, but I can still like appreciate like what goes into stuff. First of all, I love when people like take an interest that far too. I think that's cool. Like even if I don't get the thing, it's like um, people who are like real like there are people that are like so into Pokemon, and I'm just like
Yes.
I
Yeah.
still think that's pretty cool. Like if you love something that much, like even if I'm not into it, I don't have to be into it. That's the point of it. Is I still think it's cool, and like I can still appreciate like what goes into it, like the art of what goes into like winemaking or I don't just as an example, like barrel making for distilleries is like its own art. Like I think that they're called coopers,
Oh,
but
absolutely. Yeah.
so yeah, I think that's just kind of cool. Like you're that into something, even if it's something I'm not into. Like, well, I mean, I used to be into wine. It didn't go well for me, but I think it's cool that you're like that you're like that into it. So I think that's really interesting.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like you said, yeah, even if it's something that I'm not into, there is something really cool about just watching somebody who, they're so into it. Pokemon is a really good example. Or like there's a house that I run by sometimes, like one neighborhood over, where they have just this beautiful garden, and it's, I don't know if they've hired landscapers or whatever, but like somebody is tending to that. And like the amount of skill that goes into it, I think about it sometimes when I run by that house, and it's like, I'm sure everybody who passes that house, they're like, "Oh, that's really impressive that you have it like that." But you really stop and think, somebody sat and planned all this out, and planted each one of these plants, and has nurtured them and is maintaining them over the course of years and years. And it really, it's a labor of love. And I think that's kind of it with just about anything, is seeing somebody really kind of put their whole self into something like that. I still think about like years and years ago. I was at a party that a friend of mine had thrown. Her boyfriend at the time was a fire spinner, and we're like, "Oh, dude, you got to show us whatever this and that, blah blah blah." And so he, he takes us out back, and he's doing it with the I don't even know what the things are called. The like they're like balls on like wire, and they're like on fire.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, this is like absolutely incredible. But like, how does somebody even get into this? How is this like you're watching this, and it's like, yeah, I want to try that because like I'm watching this is amazing. But like, how do you develop that skill over time? So there is really something about kind of being able to witness the product of somebody's kind of sweat equity. You know what I'm saying? That's really incredible to me.
Yeah, absolutely. That gets me fired up whenever I see something like that. Even if it's not, if I don't understand it, I'm just like, damn. It's like, yeah, you're seeing someone that's just like, you're seeing like someone's like weird obsession that like it's just impressive. It's just like,
Absolutely.
yeah, totally understand. Yeah, I totally get that. I've got a few of those myself. Woodworking is one of them. But
For sure, yeah.
well,
Well, and we talk about that. It's I that's another one that I have a huge appreciation for. But it's like I wouldn't even know where to jump in. But at the same time, like there is something almost hypnotic about the process itself, and then the end result. Are you kidding me? Like it's I'm very appreciative that there are people like you out there who have devoted the time and energy into becoming these skilled craftsmen because it's it's not like art, it is art. So I think that's the thing is the more art in the world the better.
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's like a level of like bravery you have to to be that to like put your that much of yourself into something. Like I'm not saying it has to be woodworking. It could be. I think those are called dragon sticks, right? I think so. Those like the yeah, like the spinning ball.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
so.
yeah. Yeah, I believe that's
It's like
correct. Yeah.
some like to someone to go that far into it. It's just like so cool to like see someone just like they put their whole and then they like want to share it with somebody. It's like that is brave. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's very brave. Like so, yeah, I think that's cool. So thanks for sharing that with us.
For sure.
Um, well, yeah, Santino, I know you said you still have to get a run in tonight, but thanks for coming on. This has been awesome. Um, we talk a lot, but I feel like this is definitely like I feel like I learned a lot about you more so now. Kind of a different format than our usual What's in Your Earbud. So it was really cool to have you on. Um, well, yeah, I look forward to yeah, it's going to be like less than 6 months away. You'll be here, and I look forward to seeing your first ultra distance that day. That'll be exciting.
Big time for sure. I'm already looking forward to being out there definitely because that is the thing. It's just kind of getting to connect with you, connect with the whole community. And we've definitely been pushing it, hard within the EAC, and it seems like there's a lot of interest. So this is what it's all about at the end of the day. It's none of us are out here doing it by ourselves. Even if I'm a solo runner. I know you run solo a lot, whatever this and that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you can get the community together, it becomes so much more than not to obviously obviously the race is what's getting us out there, but it becomes so much more than just a race. It's a celebration. It's a celebration of your hard work that you've put into organizing this thing, and just the community at large who's all coming together in this one spot. So it's really something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Big time.
Well, yeah. So thank you, thank you again, Santina, for coming on. Yeah, I guess I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon. But
Absolutely. Definitely. Well, and thank you for having me on. I appreciate you, and this has been awesome. Definitely. It's all of these conversations are always illuminating, but for sure, it's we definitely we broke new ground here today, I think.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. Um, well, yeah,
For sure.
so thank you again, and thank you all for listening. Give Santino a follow. I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this, you know who Santino is. He's like a huge part of the community. So thank you all for listening. And this, thank you so much for the. I know I just go on and on about the comments on Spotify, but keep it up. Like I love this. So thank you all for doing so. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for listening, and I will see you all next time beyond the finish line.